Hello and welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. My name is Ross Lacane. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you the insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Welcome to another episode of the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. I'm Ross Lacane. I'm excited. We've got a really great guest. I'm really keen to unpack and get into this topic. Tony Bice is the director of First Choice Mortgage. He's been there for 21 years and he's one of the industry greats, one of the industry legends. Just recently at the Australian Broking Awards in December, he took out one of the big gongs, the Finance Broker of the Year. He's been up to position number 9 in the last couple of years in the top 100 brokers within the country. And in 2019, he took out the Finance Broker Award at the Better Business Summit in New South Wales. So welcome, Tony.
Thanks, Ross. Nice to be here, mate.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. You know, how we normally start in these podcasts, if we share a little bit about how you got started and how you started in your broking career, because I think it's important for those newer brokers listening to hear about the early days in the business. So share a little bit about that for us.
Okay, mate. Well, like most brokers, Ross, I've got a banking background. I spent quite a number of years with the Commonwealth Bank, and I was fortunate enough when Commonwealth Bank merged with First Choice Colonial to get a package, and I took that package and I took a punt on getting into a totally different industry around the ripe old age of 40. They say life begins at 40. Well, it certainly did for me, and I was lucky enough to fall into the broking industry. And when I started, there was only 2% of all loans were written by mortgage brokers, so it was in its infancy. And I had a lending background from the bank, so I approached a company called Law Fund, and they took me on board, but on their senior management side, not as a broker. And after a couple of years of working for them, it was fantastic. I really got to understand the industry, but I could see the lifestyle and the remuneration that brokers made. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'd like to make a change. So I listened to a lot of different brokers, understood a lot about their models, and then basically took the step to get into becoming a mortgage broker myself. And when I started, just like every other broker that starts out, I was a one-man band. And I started writing loans, packaging loans, processing loans. And I could see that quite clearly that my attention to detail is probably not up to the level that you need to be able to do the whole gamut from start to finish. So I brought on board a loan processor, and immediately I made the decision to pay that cost or have that extra cost in the business. I could see the benefit of it straight away. I could see that the outlaying of a fixed cost for a loan processor freed me up. And once I could see that I was freed up, I then thought, well, hang on, I could take this a step further and bring on another loan packager other than myself. So I started doing that. And then I started thinking, well, if I can get one, let's get another. And my model is a little bit unique. I don't employ men in the business, and I think this is a bit of a running joke now. I only employ women because women are smarter than men. I'll say to anybody that wants to listen, their attention to detail is better. They can multitask. They just get it. And I've got some of the sharpest girls in the industry working for me now. And the reason I've been able to keep them is because I provide them with a lifestyle over and above my lifestyle. So that's how it sort of evolved from the early days into where I am today.
Amazing, right? Amazing to think back. And we must have started in the industry at a very similar time. I remember, I was back in Wizard back in around the year 2000. And yep. People forget that, right? That the industry, John Simons was a pioneer, but that started around 93, right? So at that point in time, looking back, and you're right, the industry was only doing 3% to where we are at the moment, doing 60%. And, looking back, and it's interesting to hear how you started. And, again, like most brokers, as the one-man band, and you're fumbling around doing it yourself. And then you realize, hey, I'm going to outlay. And I imagine there was a bit of fear at that point in time to say, hey, I've got to outlay a salary to get that person on. And then you've realized that you've grown your team. And you started, and then you employed one, and then you employed another. I'm really keen to understand more about your structure and the model that you've got in terms of, because I think it's a great one. I think it's interesting in terms of the way that you've built this team of women that you talk about. So do you have other brokers within the business, or just give us a bit of an idea of what the current structure looks like for you and your team?
Okay, I think the easiest way is I'll explain the process, and that'll explain the staff. I think the key to any mortgage broker that's starting out, or even ones that have been going for a couple of years, the key to any mortgage broking business is to outsource. It's that simple. If you don't outsource and try and control everything yourself, you won't grow. So if you have that logic to start with, what we do, I sit at the top of the business and generate leads, business development, and I'm the sort of face of the business for clients that ring in or contact us via email. So I have the initial contact with the client, but by no means do I have all the answers with regards to structure, rates, and all that sort of stuff. Once I've spoken to the client and understood the scenario behind what they're looking for, I then have an assistant loan processor, Annette, and Annette basically makes contact with the client. We take the needs analysis, name, address, phone number. Then what she does is she puts all those details into our system. Now, Annette works anytime she wants, Monday to Friday, and then she just allocates the amount of hours. So it's very flexible, which allows her to look after her kids, pick them up from school, daycare, etc., and then take the needs analysis in her time in alignment with the client. Once that's done, I then I get all the documents from the client, ID, proof of income statements, rates notice, etc. And one other key one I get is their superannuation statements, which we'll talk about separately. I then give that to my loan packages, of which I've got 5. I've got one in Melbourne, one in Newcastle, one in Penrith, one in Fairfield, and one in Richmond. And these ladies have all got broking experience or loan processing, or they've worked in an aggregator in some capacity previous to having children. They're very sharp at what they do. They want to get back into the industry, but they're somewhat restricted by having kids. So what I've done is I've turned the model upside down and gone out and given them a lifestyle and also a strong remuneration. So they work from home, they generate a very strong income. I'm a firm believer, if you create a lifestyle and you pay your staff accordingly, you'll create loyalty. Most of my girls have been with, 2 of the girls have been with me 12 years. Wow. And the other 2 have been with me 7 years, and one's been with me 5 years. So you don't have that continual churn of staff if you create a lifestyle and you pay them accordingly. If you give up a little bit more of the farm than you need to, it will come back to you in spades. So they then package the loan. That's all they do, nothing more. We've broken the process up into unique parts. I do the business development, Annette does the contact for the application. The loan packages structure the loan, and then they submit it online, and then they get it to conditional approval. So anything that's outstanding, the bank requests, they get it to them. And then Anna, my senior loan processor, who's been with me for 12 years as well, she then processes the transaction by liaising with the bank, the real estate agent, the solicitor, etc., right through to settlement. And once settlement takes place, Anna then requests a 5-star review from the client so that we can continue to have our strong presence on the front page of Google. And then my wife, Lyndall, steps in and she does the follow-up with the gift basket, etc. That's the transaction from start to finish. Those are the people that are in the business. And while all that's happening, I then put my financial planning hat on, and I then provide the client with a free statement of advice. Now, if they went to a financial planner, they may charge them $1,500 for that, but I work on scale. So if I've got 5 times the amount of loans being written and I'm a qualified financial planner, then while the girls are undertaking the transaction, by the way, everything comes across my desk. And Ross, you've been around long enough to know that it's much easier to have the red pen and look at things than it is to actually structure and prepare it. Then while that's happening, I do the statement of advice, and then I sell that as a separate transaction to the mortgage. And 9 times out of 10, the clients are absolutely blown away by the service, which creates a sticky client, for want of a better word, but also extra referrals, because those clients go out and tell their friends, listen, this is a mortgage broker, but he's not just a normal mortgage broker like with Aussie or whatever. He's a financial planner as well. And we get a lot of business that way.
Love it, love it.
And that's 10 staff.
Yeah, okay. So that's 10 staff. So in terms of, so it's yourself, you've got someone on the front end who looks after the fact find and the document collection. And then it comes across to you and you do the strategy in regards to the loan.
Yep.
And it goes to the packager to get the applications out, get them submission. They handle the first RMI in terms of handling any conditions because they're across that file.
Yep.
And then once they've sort of packaged it up for unconditional approval, then it goes across to Anna, who then takes it from there all the way through to settlement.
That's right. And then the 3 staff that look after the financial planning stuff is myself, my wife, Lyndall, who does all the administrative work for the financial planning part of the business. And I've got a paraplanner. And just as I've mentioned, the importance of growing your business in digestible chunks by having a loan processor coming on your mortgages, it's equally important that you have a paraplanner to work with you on the financial planning side, because without the financial planner, I just can't get there. It's too much work involved. So outsourcing the task for the statement of advice basically allows me to then concentrate on selling it in conjunction with their settlement.
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. I'll go into that a little bit more, but I'm just keen to understand a little bit more in terms of how it works, right? So
sure.
In terms of the handover, because I get asked by a lot of brokers around, they want to feel that they want to have control of the process, right? They want to have control and, it's about them. And I'm saying, look, it's not about them. It's about you creating a team. So
sure.
I'm interested to hear, how that handover looks and how this is communicated to the client, that you've got all this great team that sits behind you. So
sure.
Talk to me through how they're sort of introduced and how that sort of is structured.
Okay. First thing I'll say is that if as a broker, and we've all been there at some stage, if you insist on total control, you won't grow. It's that simple. If you're doing the interview, the application, the structuring, the loan processing at the other side, and you're happy to do that, and you want to write 1, maybe 2 loans a week with all the work involved in there, that's fine. That's what you'll do, and you'll still be doing that in 5 years' time, my view. If you want to take the step towards growing your business to create scale, then you've got to outsource. It's that simple. So I've taken the decision to outsource because I can see that there are people around me with stronger skill sets than me that bring better skills to the table, which invariably will give the client a better experience. So the people that I've got around me, they make the transaction so much more streamlined. How I introduce them? Sure. When I'm talking to the client, I let them know, and it's going to be giving them a call. Then when Annette's given them a call, Annette will then basically say, look, now I'm going to hand this off to either Beth in Newcastle, Melissa in Melbourne, Kylie in Richmond, Alicia in Penrith, or Jessica in Fairfield. I allocate the leads that come to these girls on a steaming hot plate, and Annette, I just tell Annette, this one's going to Jess. So when she's talking to the client, Jess is going to give you a call and just introduce herself and go through a little bit more around the transaction. The handover from the girls to Anna is seamless. Anna's on the front foot and liaising with them and letting them know that she's going to be assisting to process the transaction. We get a lot of feedback, a lot of testimonials, and it's not just, oh, thank you, Tony, for getting me the loan. It's thank you, Annette, and Anna and Jessica, as well as yourself, Tony. So most clients love the idea that there's a few people involved. Makes your business look a lot bigger as well.
I love it. Love it. The things that I'm taking away from this, Tony, is you build a team of experts, right? And you've simplified the process. So your team creates a fantastic customer experience that delights your clients because they're experts at what they do. So, the certainty in the way that you told that to me, I'm sure comes off in terms of the way that you explain that to your clients, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And these girls create that world-class experience. And how good is it when you see their name up in lights on that Google review? I know as a business owner, writing big volumes, I was always loved it when I saw that. And I loved it when, in an email, they would come when they wanted their next property or the next deal, it would bypass me and go straight to them, right? And
absolutely.
it was, to me, that's about creating that business that can run without you. And
well, there's two things I do on that point, Ross. Number one is when I get a testimonial, which we get one, maybe two a week, I parcel that testimonial up and I send it out on a group email to the girls, and everybody gets to see who has been so grateful for the service and the experience of one of the ladies, but everyone gets to read it. Automatically, the girls will then congratulate that particular writer and thank, fantastic, da, da, da. The next thing I do is that I get the Google review, which then goes onto the front page of, which keeps us on the front page of Google, as I said before. But the bottom line is, it is all around the recognition. And when that next transaction comes back, as you say, Russ, a lot of the time they bypass me. I don't find out that person has referred one of their friends, or they've come back for a second transaction because of the experience. It's the girls will tell me, I had such and such come back. I then increase their remuneration to reward them for the recognition based on the amount of the initial transaction. So they get a percentage for the first transaction and an increased percentage for the second transaction from the same client or a referral from that client.
Wow. So talk to me how that works in practice, right? So is it a percentage of the loan amount? Is it a bonus figure? Like how do you work out what that remuneration is?
I give each of the ladies a percentage of the upfront commission,
okay,
and an increase on the percentage of the upfront commission for that client coming back because they love the experience, or one of they've referred one. I pay my loan processors a fixed cost because they're in the business all the time. The girls that package the loans have got the ability to write as much or as less business as they like. So, and that gets back to the freedom of the role for them. They're making more money now working from home, with all the lifestyle things that go with it, picking up their kids from daycare, dropping them to and from school, taking the doctors, school carnivals, all that sort of stuff. But they can write as little or as much as they want. Some of the girls write and they get, there's $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year working from home. Some of the others might get 40 or 50 because that's the amount that they want to work with, but they all get to do their holidays, etc.
Okay, so it's based on not a wage basis. They're all contractors, and it's all based on a percentage of the upfront.
That's right. And I pay them well, because if you pay them cheaply, then they'll drift. Pay them well and they'll stay. Create a lifestyle with a strong remuneration. And if it means I've got to give up a little bit more than the norm, I don't care, because I'm getting 5 times the amount of business written.
Love it, love it. And you're getting loyalty, you're getting, and it makes you feel good, right? It makes you feel good to share the wealth and give them a lifestyle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have a problem with divvying up the upfront. I've covered all my fixed costs, which are not many. I don't have rent. I work from home. I don't have salaries for the loan packages. They're on commission. I have a fixed cost for my loan processors, and the rest just basically goes into the bucket, and I generate 5 times the amount of trail. And that gets back to your one-man show doing 1 transaction a week, whereas I can get done 5 times that amount of transactions a week.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And the other thing that I loved you mentioned was, how at the end of the transaction, people recognize your unique value proposition, which is, hey, I'm not just a mortgage broker. Am I right? Without them asking for a statement of advice, it's something that you create automatically as just part of the process.
Absolutely, yeah. I bring it up front when I'm talking to the client. They ring me through, or they've come through from an email from our website. They've got no idea about what a statement of advice is, and they've got no idea how that part of the business can assist them. All they see is their 4-bedroom home with an ensuite. So I basically talk to them about what their main focus is, which is their mortgage, and then I add on the competitive advantage that we have, which is the risk insurance. I don't make it complicated. I basically just say to them, send me through your super statements together with your ID, and everything else that you have to provide. It's one more document. They don't see it as a big impasse. They just send it through. Then what I do is set up a separate file, and then I get 90% of the information from their fact find, transfer it across, fill out the extra information I need from the client, and I promise them that I'm going to have a comprehensive statement of advice, 40 pages, to them leading up to settlement, and it's for free. And they go, wow, how good's this? And once they get that document, they've been They've been preempted, if you like, about that I'm a financial advisor. And then I just go through the importance of risk insurance structured in an affordable way over and above them getting a mortgage. And those, out of every 10 that I write, 8 will get it. 1 will fail because of health issues, whatever, and the other one's just a moron, doesn't get it at all. So we just put them in reserve grade. But the other 8, they get it. And what I do from there is create a statement of advice, take an application, put it into the system, wrestle with an underwriter, just like you wrestle with credit. And then once that transaction is approved, et cetera, and goes into implementation, guess what? You've then got 2 upfronts, one for Mr. and one for Mrs., and you've got another trail. So you're building, you're doubling the wealth of your business without a lot of extra work if you're smart enough to outsource the task so you can manage it within your mortgage broking business.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So within that financial plan or statement of advice, as you call it, do you cover other things in terms of, you know, what that wealth journey looks like, you know, throughout their lifetime?
No, I don't, Ross. I mean, you can get as complicated as you want to in financial planning. It all depends on what accreditations you've got and what qualifications you've got. To be brutally honest, in between doing mortgages and financial planning, there's not a lot of time left at the end of the day. Probably not the sharpest bloke to be talking about annuities and all that sort of stuff. I sort of leave that to the financial planning experts, which live and breathe it. Yeah. I just stick to my bread and butter, mortgages, just like a mortgage broker, and risk insurance. And if you ask any broker that's a one-man band that's starting out and go back to their bank days, they probably were doing it for the Commonwealth Bank or Westpac anyway, but now you're doing it and getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the statement of advice is all around the risks and the risk insurance, as you said, and you get upfront and trail on that. And again, that can be for the husband and wife. So potentially getting 3 upfront commissions, 1 for the mortgage, and then the 2 risk policies. Because you're a qualified financial planning and you've done the work there, you're qualified to give this advice. So you can give not a full advice in relation to risk. If they want anything further, you refer them on to a more detailed financial planner for the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's been a bit of an upheaval and turmoil within the financial planning industry with regards to extra qualifications, FASIA, loads of compliance, etc. So I had, funny enough, had a meeting with some guys this morning that own a dealership group, and we're looking at creating a model, probably letting the cat out of the bag here a little bit, but for those brokers that don't want to go down the path of providing full advice, which means audits, which means Kaplan exams, extra qualifications, FASIA exams, and the preparation of a statement of advice, there is an option open which is called general advice. Okay, and a general advice model would suit a lot of your brokers that don't want to go as far down the commitment line as what I've done for the last 15 years, but still remunerate them very handsomely along the same lines as what I get in conjunction with their mortgage. So in other words, think of what you did when you were in the bank back in the day and you did a loan for a client in the loans office at Parramatta, whatever, at the bank, where you had to sell risk insurance or general insurance. It'll be along those lines. We're going to streamline the process so that mortgage brokers will be able to transition into general advice, double the amount of their remuneration with a fraction of the work that I currently do now. And that's what I'm putting in place now. We can talk about that later.
Love it. Love it. So this is part of the diversification. So in what other areas do you offer? Are you purely in residential mortgages, or is there other things that you offer to your clients as well?
We do commercial, just like most brokers. I mean, I don't class myself as being an expert in commercial like some of the guys that win the gongs at the awards, etc. But if a commercial deal comes across my table, and they do regularly, I have sharp staff once again. But I also, most of the banks now have got very sharp BDMs that step in and assist you with the transaction. So we write quite a bit of commercial, and of course we write a lot of asset finance. One of my staff is an ex-Toyota finance guru. So cars, boats, consumer loans, all that sort of stuff, personal loans. We do all that as a matter of course in conjunction with what we do with the mortgage. And of course, every client still gets their risk.
Yeah, great. And how do you come across these opportunities? Do you market to your clients? How do they know that you sort of diversify and you offer a full range of products? How do they become aware?
The client's coming in through the front door, either on an email, which I call back, or a phone call, which I take. I explain it all up front. So, and that's another thing that a broker should look at, particularly in the market we're in today. When you and I first started 20 years ago, I mean, it was pretty easy. You're an order taker, let's be honest. Client would ring through, you fill out the details and you had the deal. Now when a client rings through, they've generally spoken to someone at Aussie, they've spoken to someone at some other broker group that's on the front page of Google. So you're up against competitors. So you've got to be able to differentiate yourself from the pack. And the financial planning part does it for me beautifully. Every time I talk to a client, they generally say, well, look, I've already spoken to Billy Blogs at Aussie, so why are you any different? I just simply say, are they a financial planner? And 9 times out of 10, they say no. I say, fine. Okay, so I can provide exactly the same services as the other mortgage broker and some, and it doesn't cost you anything. And as soon as I do that, 9 times out of 10, I win the deal over the competitor.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So you really highlight your point of difference. And I think, it's really important, and it's important for a lot of brokers. And one of the things I often teach, and I read it in a book called The Challenge of Sale, was 54% of loyalty is built at the point of sale. So what you're saying is, when a client comes to you, not just talking about, the fix that they want, which is the mortgage or the refinance or whatever, you're explaining your full range of services, including what you do around the asset finance, the commercial, around the financial planning. So for you, it's not just a transaction, it's a relationship.
It's the full experience and relationship. Exactly. I mean, we've heard the term a 30-second elevator ride, and I normally do that to just give them a little bit of my background so they know who they're dealing with. The fact that we've done 20 years in the industry does give you some clout these days, because they know they're not dealing with someone that's green. So saying that I've done 20 years worth of experience, saying that I'm accredited with X amount of banks, and then adding the icing on the cake by saying I'm also a financial advisor. If I had $1 for every one of the clients that's interjected and said, oh, wow, that's great. Oh, that's good. And I said, and more importantly, I said, my services to you are free. I mentioned, of course, that I'm going to get remunerated from the insurer when that's part of the SOA. But in this early stage, I simply just justify it by saying that I provide scale. I write a lot of mortgages, and I provide a lot of clients with the offer of financial advice. They take it up, and I said, and that's how I get my money back. And they don't have a problem with it, never have.
Yeah, love it, love it. And as you mentioned, you get a ton of referral business in relation to clients. So is that your main source of business, repeat and referral business at this point after 20 odd years in the business?
It's certainly nice. I mean, I don't have to leave the desk here and the leads just go ding on my computer, and I know there's another lead, and I probably get 2 or 3 a day. It's nice, and I try my best to win most of them, which I do. It's a blend of online leads and also refer and repeat business. But getting to the online business, that just doesn't happen overnight. I've had an SEO strategy in place for over 15 years now, Ross, and I was putting SEO in place when most brokers couldn't even spell it. So if a young broker starts in the business today and sets up a website, there's a good chance he's going to be on page 900. So there's a lot of work involved. And again, it's another expense that you outlay. I've engaged an advertising and marketing agency, and they look after everything. It's a fixed cost each month. I bite the bullet. I know that I'm going to get return for what I outlay. I get more leads back in spades, which more than covers off the amount of my initial outlay each month. Yeah. And they're gold. They're gold.
Do you have any idea of ROI in terms of, right, if I spend $1, I know I'm going to get, how many back with that? Any idea?
No, I don't sort of get that smart. I've got a couple of broker mates of mine that are very sharp, and they say, "Oh, Tony, do you know how much you settle this month?" I wouldn't have a clue. Okay. Oh, Tony, what you outlay is what you get back. Couldn't be. I'm too busy selling to worry about the numbers. I leave that to Lyndall, and if she tells me that there's everything's flying in the night, so that's good enough for me, I'm on the phone. I'm networking. I'm talking. I don't sort of get too involved in what all I know is that, dumbing it right down, if I spend $2,000 a month on SEO, I know that I'm going to get a bucket load more back than $2,000 a month by the leads I get. that's about as smart as I get with it.
Love it. And I love the simplicity. And every time I speak to the top brokers, the one thing shines through, and it's the focus on sales. There's a reason that top brokers are top brokers, because they focus. And I love what you're saying. You don't know the numbers because you're too busy. And I sort of say that sales and adding value is on the same side of the coin. And so you're so busy out networking, adding value to people, that you don't focus on that. That's just the result. You focus on the activity, which is the sales activity, which then leads to the results.
Yeah. Well, you can strip it down to a couple of reasons. One, as I said before, my attention to detail's not that good. And most people that listen to this that know me in the broking industry will probably agree. So I focus on what I'm good at, selling. Numbers. I don't have time to crunch numbers and look at spreadsheets. I go back to my old banking days, and you probably remember the old Gantt chart. Remember the old Gantt charts they used to have in project management?
Yeah.
I spent half my day trying to understand what the Gantt chart was saying before I could actually get the tasks done. And I've just taken that logic from all those years ago and applied it to my business and thought there's no point in sitting down there and trying to business plan and trying to get all your numbers in a line and trying to work out what you get your forecast for your settlements are, because you're taking your ball off what you do best. So yeah, business plan's good to give you a direction, and we all have one, but the actual day-to-day forecasting, looking at numbers, how much is coming in, how much is going out, how much I'm spending, I just go hell for leather.
Exactly. Love it. And the sales focus obviously gets the result. And, which leads to, the sales leads to other things. And we were talking about our travels where, we were both in Europe at a similar time a couple of years ago, and when the world was open, and you're allowed to, your business gave you a lifestyle. I think you mentioned you traveled for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And most brokers would, dream of taking a week off, let alone having 6 weeks to travel around Europe. So talk to me about the importance of, not only your business, providing the income, but providing that lifestyle for you as well.
Yeah. Well, I got into this game, as we said, way back in the day, and I was attracted to the lifestyle. What I didn't know at that time was just how time consuming being a one-man band would be. And most of your brokers out there that you deal with, that have that challenge. The challenge to create a better lifestyle over and above just being your own boss only comes with outsourcing. The minute you bring other people into your team, it frees you up to do other things. I'm sort of getting to the pointier end now, Ross. I mean, I'm the wrong side of 60 now, so time's getting away. But what I'm finding now is that when Lyndall and I want to go on a holiday, and before COVID, we traveled probably twice a year to overseas destinations, I would take my laptop and I'd be sitting in Glasgow, and I'd get the emails that come through. Clients don't know where you are. They don't know whether you're in Sydney or in Glasgow. I would simply just do what I do now, networking, make phone calls, and do the minimal amount of email requirements. And I'd be finished by 8:30, down for breakfast, the day's mine. At home, I've got the likes of the girls, Anna, Annette, and Beth, Kylie, Alicia, Jess, and the rest of the team, all doing their thing. So the business grinds along without me even being in it. And if you can get to that stage, which I'm at now, then you know you got your model right.
Beautiful.
But it takes a long time.
Right. So you mentioned you are at the pointy end. So what next for Tony? What is, as you mentioned, you're 60. What does the future look like for you and the business?
I'm lucky. I mean, let's face it, you've got a couple of options when you get closer to retirement. You can sell your business, and that'll give you a number, and then you've got to get that number to last you. And most people like you and I that have passionately built a business over 20 years, last thing you want to do is sell it to someone else, because it's your life, it's your baby, it's what you've grown. So selling my business never has been an option. Then the next option is you can get a young guy, sleek broker that's just done his academy, etc., or a more experienced broker. Either way, you're going to bring them into the business. You're going to have them sit in your chair. You're going to pay them 6 figures, and you're going to hope they don't diddle the books or do something that we've all heard war stories over the years. It's a risk, but it's not a risk that I'm prepared to take. I'm fortunate. I've got a daughter called Georgia, and she's the head of broker engagement for CoreLogic. She reports through to a fellow by the name of Mark Woolner. You probably remember him.
Oh, yeah.
Early days. Remember Mark? Yeah, cool.
Great
well,
guy.
Back in the old Bank West ING days from memory.
Yeah.
Well, that's Georgie's boss, and Mark reports through to the CEO of CoreLogic, and she spends a lot of time with Tim Lawless, who you might see on TV a fair bit. So that's Georgie's role at the moment. She's just resigned, and she's going to come into the business. She's 27. She'll take it to the next level without a shadow of a doubt. She'll put in place all the things that millennials are all over. I still have to get her to show me how to do something on Foxtel. Georgie's got all that sorted. So she will take the SEO strategy and a lot of the things the business will benefit from her young mind and skill set to the next level. What I will teach her is what I do in the chair in selling. So it's not a matter of just throwing her the keys next week and saying, Georgie, go for your best. I will be in this business for another 10 years, but I'm going to gradually slow down over the next few years as I train Georgie up. And I'm also going to train her up to be a mortgage broker as well.
Love it. Love it. What a great exit strategy. And it sounds like you've got it planned, and nothing like someone within the family who you can trust. And I was in business with my brother for many, many years. So I know.
Well, you do this interview in a couple of years' time with Georgia, Ross, and you'll know exactly what I mean. She's a very impressive young lady, and she's a sharp cookie, knows her stuff. So first choice mortgage brokers is in very good hands when I slow down.
Love it. Love it. All right. I mean, it's been great. I really enjoyed the chat today, Tony. So much value, so many pieces of gold, so much wisdom, right? And wisdom comes from living it for the last 20 odd years, and from all the experience that you've got. I normally ask one question sort of in closing, and if you were to give one piece of advice for a broker who is looking to grow and scale their business, what would that be?
Diversify. Diversify. It is an absolute no-brainer. If you're going to grow your business and create a business that is going to be foolproof, it's going to create more income for you, it's going to be a much stronger and better saleable asset when you get to my age, diversify. And with diversification comes outsourcing. The two go hand in hand. When you make the decision to grow your business, the best way to grow your business is to diversify. And what is better than being able to cross-sell risk insurance off the back of a mortgage? It's a no-brainer. And when you get to that stage, you then need to outsource some of those tasks so you can get other people around you. Those two things will grow your business, and it will make a very, very rewarding business. Simple.
Love it. Love it. So much gold, so much wisdom. You've heard it. Diversify, and scale with a team. Create a lifestyle, pay them well, and they'll look after you, and the profits will flow.
Spot on.
So thanks again, Tony. This has been another episode of the $1 Billion Broker podcast. If you'd like to engage with us, there's a number of ways that you can do it. 1, subscribe to the podcast. 2, book an appointment to speak to us about how we can help you with our coaching or mentoring. Sign up to us on the $1 Billion Broker Facebook group. It's a private group. Request to join, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks. Until next time, we'll see you later.